And now we're in Job 23. Job is still responding, and he's responding because he wants his day in court. He wants to be able to argue his innocence before God. Verse 3, if only I knew where to find him. If only I could go to his dwelling. I could state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would find out what he would answer me and consider what he had to say to me. He just wants his day in court, and he's really struggling here. He said, he pronounces his innocence. He said, my feet have closely followed his steps. I have kept to his way without turning aside. I have not departed from the commands of his lips. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my daily bread. But he stands alone. Who can oppose him? He does whatever he pleases. He carries out his decree against me, and many such plans he has in store. That is why I am terrified before him. When I think of all of this, I fear him. God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. Yet I am not silenced by the darkness, by the thick darkness that covers my face. So he goes on. Why does the Almighty not set times for judgment? God's not approachable because the judgment thing is just way up in the air. Why must those who know him look in vain for such days? In other words, God, when's judgment day? Well, Job is focusing on this life so much, he's not thinking that, hey, maybe after this life is over, then comes the judgment. But no, he wants judgment now. He wants God to distinguish between the good and the bad. He wants God to make heaven now. And heaven isn't now. Okay? And so that's a real struggle for him. And he talks about the wicked and just who they are. And he talks about how the groaning of the dying rise from the city and the souls of the wounded cry out for help, but God charges no one with wrongdoing. In other words, God is just sleeping on the job. People are suffering and he's not stopping it. For all of them, midnight is their morning. He's talking about the wicked. They make friends with the terrors of darkness, which kind of insulates them from judgment. But God drags away the mighty by his power. Though they become established, they have no assurance of life. He's talking about the wicked here. He may let them rest in their feeling of security, but his eyes are on their ways. For a little while, they're exalted, and then they're gone. They are brought low and gathered up like all others. They are cut off like heads of grain. If this is not so, who can prove me false and reduce my words to nothing? The whole point here is that there's a lack of timely judgment. It just seems like God is just willy-nilly on these things. And so these are the things that he's struggling with. And we struggle with these things. In fact, one of the biggest reasons why Christians leave the faith is because of what they see in this life. And they don't think past it. This is something really worth talking about. So let's do it.